The twin suns of the outer rim were low on the horizon, burning the sky with shades of orange and gold. A thin wind blew across the dusty surface of the abandoned starport, carrying with it the dry smell of rust and old metal. Jace Mallory, known in passing circles as the solitary cowboy, guided his small, weathered starship onto the cracked landing pad. The engines hissed and settled into silence, leaving only the soft hum of the dying station. Jace stepped out, adjusting the wide-brimmed hat that shaded his face from the suns. His boots crunched over the gritty ground as he surveyed the station. The walls were chipped and scarred, windows covered in grime, and most doors hung slightly off their hinges. It had once been a place of commerce, a busy hub where miners and travelers met. But now, it was little more than a memory. Not much business out here, he muttered to himself, though he didn't expect anyone to answer. Silence had been his companion for years. He made his way to the refueling bay, checking the readouts on his ship's console. As he inspected the tanks, movement caught his eye from the far side of the station. He paused, squinting, and saw a small figure struggling across the dust. An impossibly small figure for the vast, empty station. It was a young girl, no more than 10, carrying a baby in her arms. Her clothes were worn and patched, dusty from the long journey. The baby stirred, small hands curling around her fingers, and she looked up at Jace with wide, determined eyes. "Can you purchase us, sir?" she asked, her voice surprisingly steady for someone so small. Jace froze. The word struck him as strange, almost like a test. "Purchase? You?" he asked slowly, lowering his gaze to meet hers. The girl didn't flinch. "Yes, sir," she replied. "We need someone to take care of us. To keep us safe. Please." Jace's hand hovered near the sidearm at his belt. It had been years since he had dealt with people who asked for help instead of offering it. Slavers were common here, and desperation could hide deception. Still, something about the girl's expression, the honest, unflinching hope, made him pause. "Where's your family?" he asked, choosing his words carefully. The girl's eyes flickered to the shadow behind her. A woman, tall and composed, emerged from the wreckage of the station's old hangar. Her clothes were simple but clean, and her eyes carried a calm authority. "There is no one left, mister." She left the sentence hanging, testing him. "Mallory, Jace Mallory," he said, keeping his voice neutral. "I am Lyra," the woman said softly. "This is Mara, and her brother. Though, he is not like other children. They have been hunted, and we have no one else to turn to." Jace studied her carefully. There was no fear in her tone, only a quiet urgency. He had seen enough people in this sector to know when they were lying, and Lyra seemed genuine. "Why would anyone hunt them?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra looked down at the baby Mara clutched. "Because the child has a gift. Something rare. It is enough to make powerful people interested." Her eyes met his, steady and unafraid. "We need someone who can survive out here, someone who understands the dangers of space beyond the law. We need you." Jace exhaled slowly. He had spent his life drifting, answering only to himself, avoiding attachments. And yet, as he looked at the small family before him, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: responsibility, and perhaps even hope. He crouched slightly to meet Mara's eyes. "You're asking a lot," he said. "I don't usually take people in." Mara shook her head. "We don't ask for much. Just a chance. Just someone to keep us safe." Her voice was firm. "Please." Jace glanced at Lyra again. She nodded subtly, almost imperceptibly. He could see the exhaustion in her posture, the weight of constant vigilance, and he knew they had nowhere else to go. "All right," he said finally. "But you need to understand this isn't a normal journey. It's dangerous out there, and I don't make promises I can't keep." Lyra inclined her head. "We understand. We only ask that you try." The decision made, Jace led them to the small cargo hold of his ship. He helped Lyra stow supplies while Mara placed the baby gently into a cushioned pod designed to keep it safe during flight. He noted her careful hands, the protective way she moved, and he realized that the child's survival had already shaped them both. As they prepared for takeoff, Jace felt the weight of the suns on his back, the dusty wind whipping across the station. He climbed into the cockpit, Lyra beside him, and Mara peering over her mother's shoulder. The controls hummed under his hands, the familiar vibrations of his ship bringing a sense of steadiness. "You'll need to tell me more about where we're going," he said, glancing at Lyra. She nodded. "We need a safe place. Somewhere no one knows. Somewhere the child can grow without fear." Jace's mind raced. There were few places in the Rim that were truly safe. Most planets were claimed by corporations, syndicates, or pirate clans. But he had heard whispers of an uncharted world, hidden by asteroid belts and storms, where humans had thrived despite harsh conditions. He didn't know if it still existed, but it was the only lead he had. "Then we'll head there," he said. "Hold on tight. It won't be easy, but I've survived worse." As the engines roared to life, stirring the dusty station around them, Jace felt an unfamiliar sensation. It was not fear, nor excitement, it was something deeper, a sense of purpose that had been missing for years. He glanced at Mara, who held the baby close, her eyes wide with trust, and at Lyra, whose calm determination seemed to anchor the small family. The ship lifted off, leaving the ruined station behind. Dust swirled in the air as the twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the ground. Jace steered the vessel toward the stars, toward uncertainty, and toward the faint hope of safety. Hours passed as they traveled through the dark expanse, the silence of space broken only by the hum of the engines and the soft breathing of the child. Mara leaned against her mother, her small hand brushing against Jace's arm. It was a simple gesture, but it carried more weight than any words. They trusted him, even when they had every reason not to. "What's your name, little one?" he asked softly. "Mara," she whispered. "Well, Mara," Jace said, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "We've got a long way to go." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, each one a reminder of how vast the universe could be and how fragile life was in its midst. And yet, in that fragile moment, Jace felt something remarkable. The strength of humanity, the courage of those who refused to give up, and the quiet bond forming between three souls adrift in a galaxy that had forgotten them. As they sailed past drifting asteroids and distant suns, Jace knew the journey would test them all. But he also knew that together, they had a chance, however small, to carve a place in the universe where hope could survive, and where humanity, in its stubborn brilliance, could prevail against the odds. And for the first time in many years, the solitary cowboy didn't feel so alone. The stars stretched like silver threads across the black sky, and the hum of Jace's ship was the only sound in the cabin. Mara slept peacefully in her cushioned pod, small hands curled over the blanket, while Lyra sat quietly beside her, staring out the viewport. The silence was comfortable, almost sacred, as if the vastness of space had granted them a temporary reprieve from the dangers that lurked elsewhere. Jace's eyes lingered on the distant stars, thinking, he had escorted many people in his life, but none like these two. There was a weight in their presence, a quiet strength that demanded respect. Yet, there was something unsaid, a hidden story that hung between them like the uncharted space beyond the viewport. "Jace," Lyra said softly, breaking the silence, "I think it's time you know why we are being hunted." He turned, raising an eyebrow. "Go on. But keep it simple. I don't like mysteries, especially when they involve people I'm trying to protect." Lyra nodded. "The child, your Mara, is not ordinary. She carries a rare genetic design, something the old corporations once experimented with in secret. They hoped to create someone capable of understanding and developing technology far beyond ordinary limits. They failed, or so they thought. Mara is their lost project." Jace leaned back in his seat, absorbing her words. He had dealt with rogue scientists and corrupt corporations before, but this was different. A child, small and fragile, yet holding a secret the powerful wanted. So, you're saying she's being hunted because she's smart? Lyra shook her head. It's not just intelligence. It's intuition. She can perceive things, patterns, machines, even energy that others can't. In the wrong hands, she would be forced to work for them. We cannot let that happen. Jace ran a hand over his face. He didn't like being pulled into complicated matters. But as he looked at Mara, curled up and breathing evenly, he knew he couldn't turn away. Some things demanded action, whether one wanted them or not. How far have they followed you? He asked. Lyra's eyes darkened. We lost them for now, but they will come again. Stronger. They have resources, ships, trackers, even mercenaries. We only have a head start. Jace nodded slowly. Then we keep moving. No one stays in one place too long in this sector. The small ship slipped through the void, passing asteroid belts that glimmered like scattered jewels. Jace skillfully navigated the debris, using it as natural cover. Mara awoke briefly, rubbing her eyes, and looked at him with a sleepy smile. Are we safe? She asked. For now, Jace said, smiling gently. But you'll have to trust me. It's not always easy out here. Lyra watched the exchange quietly. Her trust in Jace had grown rapidly, but the road ahead was uncertain. She knew Mara's abilities would attract attention, and hiding alone would not be enough. They needed more, a place where humanity's ingenuity and courage could give them a true chance at survival. Hours passed, and the vast emptiness outside began to feel less intimidating. Mara laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes, as Jace showed her how to manipulate the ship's controls under his careful supervision. Even at her young age, she showed an innate understanding, pressing buttons and adjusting settings in ways that surprised him. You're not just smart, Jace said, shaking his head in amazement. You might be the smartest person I've ever met without even knowing it. Mara giggled, leaning back against her mother. I just like to watch and learn, she said simply. Lyra smiled, a mixture of pride and relief washing over her. Jace was not only protecting them, but recognizing the child's uniqueness without fear or expectation. Night fell on the ship. Though in space, night was just another concept. The twin suns of their previous planet disappeared from view, replaced by the distant glow of galaxies. Lyra turned to Jace, her expression serious. There is more you need to know, she said. Mara can do things most adults cannot. She can understand patterns, anticipate outcomes, and solve problems that could take years for trained engineers. In the wrong hands, she would be a tool. In the right environment, she could help humanity grow in ways we have only dreamed of. Jace rubbed the bridge of his nose. So we're not just running from people, we're carrying the future of, what? Technology? Civilization? Lyra nodded. In a sense. But more importantly, we are protecting her as a human being. That's what matters most. Jace felt a swell of respect. The Outer Rim was full of people chasing power, money, or revenge. Yet here was a woman who placed the value of a child's life above everything else. That kind of courage, that was rare. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert on the ship's radar. Jace's eyes narrowed. We're not alone, he muttered. The sensors showed a small, sleek vessel trailing them at a distance. Its design was efficient, deadly in appearance, but the ship's slow pace suggested caution rather than direct attack. Lyra rose, moving to his side. They've found us. Jace remained calm, though his mind raced. Not yet, but we'll make them think twice. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, weaving through a nearby cluster of debris fields. The pursuing ship struggled to follow, its sensors scanning, calculating, but unable to match Jace's experience navigating natural obstacles. Why are they waiting? Lyra asked, concern in her voice. They're watching, Jace replied. They don't want to risk losing the prize. Mara isn't just any child. They know her value. And they're patient. For now. Mara watched the tension with wide eyes. Are we in danger? She asked quietly. Jace glanced at her and softened. Not right now, kiddo. But you're learning something important. People will try to take what you have. And sometimes, the best defense is to be smarter, faster, and braver than they expect. The lesson was simple, but Mara understood. Even at 10, she could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing in, and yet, she trusted the man, guiding them through the stars. Hours turned into days as they traveled. Jace taught Mara basic navigation, energy manipulation, and problem-solving under pressure. Lyra explained strategy, not in terms of war, but in terms of survival and outthinking threats. Together, they practiced scenarios where Mara's intuition helped them escape dangers they could not yet fully understand. One evening, Lyra spoke again, her tone quieter now. Jace, there is a place I've heard of. A hidden world far beyond these systems. Humans thrive there, despite impossible conditions. They've built a society without depending on corporations or technology controlled by others. It may be the safest place for Mara to grow. Jace leaned back, staring out at the stars. A place like that, it almost sounds like a myth. Legends often contain truth, Lyra replied. And if it exists, it may be our only chance. Jace considered the possibilities. He had always been a drifter, moving from station to station, planet to planet. But now, for the first time, he had a purpose beyond survival. To protect Mara, guide her safely, and perhaps, if he succeeded, help humanity embrace the ingenuity she represented. The night passed, and as the first light of distant suns touched the cabin, Jace felt a renewed sense of determination. They were not alone. Not entirely. Together, the three of them formed a small, unlikely family bound by trust, courage, and hope. And in that fragile bond, Jace understood something profound. The strength of humanity lay not in weapons, ships, or technology, but in resilience, compassion, and the willingness to protect one another, no matter the odds. As the ship glided silently through the void, Jace made a silent vow. They would reach that hidden world, wherever it was, and Mara would have a future of her own choosing. He would not fail her, and in that determination, the solitary cowboy discovered a truth he had long ignored. Humanity, even in its smallest forms, could shine brightest in the darkest corners of space. And so, with the twin suns of a distant system rising behind them, Jace, Lyra, and Mara continued their journey toward safety, toward discovery, and toward a future where hope and human ingenuity could flourish beyond the reach of fear. The small ship glided silently through the dark reaches of space, its engines emitting a soft hum that was the only sound inside the cabin. Jace Mallory sat in the pilot seat, hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the sensors for any sign of danger. Mara sat nearby, her small face pressed against the viewport, staring wide-eyed at the endless stars. Lyra stood behind them, her arms folded, watching both the stars and the child with a quiet intensity. Days had passed since they left the Outer Rim station. The trio had moved through uncharted systems, avoiding the main trade routes, carefully navigating through asteroid belts and drifting debris fields. It was a journey full of tension, but also one of wonder. Mara was fascinated by the view outside, the colors of nebulae and the glittering stars, while Lyra took the time to teach her about the planets they passed and the principles of space travel. Jace's mind, however, was never fully at rest. He had encountered bounty hunters and corporate enforcers before, but this threat felt different, personal. The child in Mara's arms was not just another passenger. She carried a secret that others would risk everything to claim. "Do you think they'll catch us?" Mara asked, breaking the silence, her small voice trembling slightly. Jace glanced at her, forcing a reassuring smile. "Not if we're careful. There are tricks the best pilots can use that even the fastest ships can't predict." Lyra knelt beside her daughter. "We have to be smart, Mara. Sometimes, brains are stronger than speed. We'll teach you everything you need to know to stay safe." Mara nodded solemnly, taking in their words with the seriousness of someone who understood that their lives depended on learning quickly. Even at her young age, she could sense the danger that followed them, though she had yet to understand the full scope. The days blended into nights in the endless void of space. Mara learned to help Jace navigate minor hazards, adjusting the ship's shields and sensors under his guidance. Lyra taught her about the importance of observation, how to notice patterns in star movement, the subtle shifts in asteroid fields, and the behavior of ships that might be tracking them. One evening, while the ship drifted near a small system of icy asteroids, Jace noticed a faint blip on the sensor. He frowned, leaning closer. "Someone's there," he muttered. Lyra came over, her calm demeanor hiding the tension she felt. "How close?" "Too close for comfort," Jace replied. "But they're keeping distance, probably waiting for us to make a mistake." Mara's eyes widened. "Are they going to catch us?" Jace shook his head. "Not if we stay clever. That's the thing about humans, kid. We can think in ways machines and mercenaries can't predict." He guided the ship through a narrow cluster of icy asteroids, using their irregular shapes to hide the vessel from sensors. The pursuers struggled to keep up, their automated tracking systems unable to adjust to Jace's unpredictable maneuvers. Mara watched, fascinated, as the massive rocks seemed to move around them like shields. "Why do you do this?" she asked, her curiosity overcoming her fear. Jace glanced at her, seeing the genuine wonder in her eyes. "Because sometimes, the smallest and cleverest choices make all the difference. Humans aren't just strong, we're smart. That's what keeps us alive." Lyra smiled faintly. "And we'll use that to protect you, Mara. Together, we're stronger than any ship or hunter." As they continued their journey, the trio passed through a shimmering nebula, its clouds of gas casting a soft violet and blue glow inside the cockpit. Mara's excitement was palpable. She leaned forward, tracing patterns in the light with her small fingers. "It's like the stars are painting for us," she whispered. "Or maybe they're showing us the way," Jace said with a grin. The nebula posed challenges. Sensors were unreliable, and the ship's navigation systems required constant adjustment. But Jace thrived in these conditions, using his experience and intuition to guide them safely. Mara helped where she could, quickly learning to interpret the readings and suggesting minor adjustments that often proved useful. Lyra oversaw the process, guiding both of them and ensuring Mara's abilities were nurtured carefully. Despite the beauty of the nebula, tension remained. The syndicate tracking them was patient and calculating. Jace knew that at any moment they could encounter a faster ship or a more skilled tracker. He instructed Mara and Lyra to remain alert, teaching them basic protocols to detect incoming vessels and respond quickly. "Think about patterns," he told Mara. "Every movement leaves a trace. If you can spot the pattern, you can predict the next move. That's how humans stay ahead." Mara nodded, her young mind absorbing the lesson. "Like reading the stars?" "Exactly," Jace said, impressed. "The universe has patterns, and humans can read them in ways machines can't." Their strategy worked. As the days passed, the syndicate's attempts to intercept them failed repeatedly. Each time the hunters adjusted their course, Jace found a clever route, through asteroid fields, narrow canyons, or gravitational anomalies. Mara's understanding of patterns and timing improved rapidly, and Lyra provided calm guidance and moral support. One day, they approached a system with a small, rocky planet. Jace scanned the surface and noticed signs of human activity. Tiny settlements and scattered energy fields. "Looks like humans have been here," he said. Lyra examined the readings. This could be a potential stop, a place to resupply without being detected. But we must be careful. Not all humans are trustworthy. They landed discreetly on a secluded plateau, hidden from the larger settlements below. Mara helped unload small equipment, and Jace taught her to operate minor tools for repairs and maintenance. The child's aptitude amazed both adults. She quickly understood complex mechanisms and improvised solutions to problems. "That's impressive," Lyra said, watching Mara work. "She's learning faster than most adults," Jace nodded. "Brains over brawn, Lyra. That's what keeps us alive out here. During their brief stay, they encountered a few locals who were cautious but kind. They offered food and supplies, impressed by Jace's reputation as a solitary traveler and the child's unusual talents. Mara's curiosity and friendly nature endeared her to the people quickly, even in a world accustomed to suspicion. The stop was short-lived. Jace knew that the syndicate would eventually find traces of their path. He refueled and restocked essential supplies, carefully charting a course toward a hidden world. Lyra had heard of a place where humans had thrived despite harsh conditions, a sanctuary far from corporate control and danger. As they left the planet's atmosphere, Mara looked out at the horizon, awe written across her face. "Do you think the world we're going to is really real?" she asked. "It is," Lyra said gently. "And when we get there, you'll see how humans can survive and create amazing things. Even in the toughest places," Jace added. "And maybe, Mara, you'll help them make it even better." That's the thing about humans, we never stop learning, never stop creating. That's what makes us strong. For days, they traveled through quiet sectors, occasionally navigating through asteroid belts and small moons. Mara's skills continued to improve. She could anticipate minor hazards, suggest adjustments to navigation, and even detect anomalies that Jace's sensors might have missed. Lyra encouraged her, teaching the child not just survival skills, but ethics, responsibility, and the importance of helping others. One night, as they passed near a glowing gas giant, Mara leaned against Jace. "I think I understand now," she said softly. "Being clever, thinking ahead, it's how humans survive." Jace smiled, feeling a rare warmth in his chest. "Exactly. And not just survive, kid. Humans can thrive when they work together. When we use our minds and our hearts. That's what makes us different from machines or anyone who only thinks about power." Lyra nodded, placing a hand on Mara's shoulder. "And that's why we must protect what makes her special. She's not just surviving. She's showing the rest of us what humans can achieve." As the ship continued toward the unknown hidden world, Jace reflected on how far they had come. The journey had been filled with danger, learning, and discovery. And it had shown him something he had long forgotten: the power of trust, intelligence, and cooperation. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, each one a reminder of the vast possibilities that awaited them. And somewhere out there, in a world untouched by greed and danger, humans had created a place where ingenuity and courage thrived. A place where Mara could grow safely and teach others the lessons she had already begun to understand. Jace glanced at Mara, who was asleep against Lyra. "We're almost there, kid," he whispered. "And when we arrive, we'll show everyone that humans clever, brave, and united can shine, even in the darkest corners of the universe." The journey was far from over, but the first steps towards safety, growth, and human brilliance had been taken. And Jace, the solitary cowboy, understood that with courage, ingenuity, and heart, they could face anything the stars had in store. The small ship drifted through the dense asteroid belt, glinting like scattered jewels in the starlight. Jace Mallory navigated with careful precision, weaving between massive rocks and debris with practiced ease. Mara clutched the edge of her seat, wide-eyed with excitement. Lyra watched silently, her face calm, though her mind was alert to every movement outside. "This is incredible," Mara whispered, pointing at a large spinning asteroid that cast long shadows across the cockpit. "It's like flying through a galaxy of crystals." Jace smiled, a rare, soft expression. "Keep your eyes open, kid. Beauty and danger often travel together out here." "Too." Lyra's voice broke the momentary calm. "We are close to the hidden world. It's beyond this belt, just past the nebula. The people there, they're extraordinary. Humans who survived, thrived, and built a life where no one else could." Jace's eyes narrowed. "Extraordinary humans, huh? Sounds like a challenge I might enjoy." The nebula ahead glowed faintly in shades of violet and blue. Its gases twisted and shimmered, creating illusions that made navigation tricky. Jace adjusted the ship's sensors, filtering the light interference. "All right," he said. "Stay calm and trust me. We'll get through this." Mara leaned against the viewport, staring at the colors swirling outside. "Do you think they'll like me?" she asked, voice small. "They will," Lyra reassured her. "They understand people like you, Mara. You are special, but not alone." Jace's hands danced over the controls, making minute adjustments to the ship's trajectory. Asteroids loomed like mountains, and the nebula threatened to push them off course. But with careful maneuvering and a bit of luck, they slipped through the outer edge without incident. On the other side, the hidden world revealed itself. From orbit, it looked like a rough and untamed planet. Rocky cliffs rose above valleys filled with strange, bioluminescent plants that glowed softly at night. Vast fields stretched toward the horizon, dotted with small settlements of people who had clearly adapted to the harsh environment. There were no massive cities, no corporate stations, only human ingenuity and harmony with the planet's challenges. "They live here," Lyra said quietly. "Humans who refuse to bow to machines, corporations, or power-hungry leaders. They thrive by working together and using their minds." Jace felt a rare sense of awe. He had survived countless dangerous missions, but he had never seen a community so alive with purpose, creativity, and resilience. "Looks like paradise," he muttered, "but I'm sure it's earned every inch of it." The ship descended slowly, guided by Jace's steady hands. Landing near one of the settlements, they were met by a group of people who emerged cautiously, curiosity evident in their faces. Lyra stepped forward, introducing Mara and Jace, explaining their journey and the danger that had followed them. A tall man with a kind but firm presence spoke first. "You've come a long way. Few outsiders reach our borders. Why should we trust you?" Jace shrugged slightly, his eyes meeting the man's. "I'm no one special. I just know how to survive. But I promise you this. Mara's life is my responsibility. I will protect her with everything I have, and I expect nothing in return, except the chance to keep her safe." The man studied him, then nodded slowly. "Words are easy. Actions are what matter. Come. We will see what you can offer." Over the next several days, Jace, Mara, and Lyra explored the settlement. They witnessed ingenious solutions to problems that would have destroyed other communities. Water was recycled with clever filtration systems built from scrap materials. Energy came from a combination of solar arrays, wind turbines, and even small geothermal vents. Homes were constructed from local stone and adaptive materials, designed to withstand storms and seismic activity. Every structure reflected the people's ingenuity and determination. Mara's eyes sparkled as she watched the people at work. "They're amazing," she said to Jace, pointing at a group of children carefully assembling a small drone. "They make everything themselves," Jace chuckled, watching her excitement. "Welcome to a place where humans truly shine, kid. They don't wait for anyone else to solve their problems. They figure it out themselves." Lyra smiled, relieved to see Mara's happiness. "This is what I hoped for," she said softly. "A place where she can grow without fear, where her abilities are appreciated rather than exploited." The child's unique talents became apparent quickly. She understood machines intuitively, noticing patterns and connections that even experienced engineers took time to see. The community welcomed her contributions, teaching her to refine her skills and use her abilities responsibly. Mara's laughter and curiosity brought a new energy to the settlement, inspiring adults and children alike. But even in this peaceful environment, danger still lurked. The syndicate that had pursued them in the Outer Rim had not given up. They were clever, patient, and resourceful. They could not ignore a prodigy like Mara for long. Jace knew that while the settlement was a sanctuary, it could not be assumed completely safe. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the cliffs, Lyra and Jace stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement. "They'll come," Jace said, his voice low. "They'll never stop chasing Mara. But this place, it gives us a fighting chance." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. And we will be ready. We can teach them to respect our ways, to understand that humanity's strength isn't just in weapons or numbers, it's in intelligence, cooperation, and the will to survive. Jace smiled faintly, feeling a rare sense of purpose. He had spent his life drifting through space, surviving for himself. Now, he was part of something bigger. He wasn't just protecting Mara. He was helping to preserve a vision of humanity at its best. Inventive, resilient, and courageous. Over the following weeks, Jace and Lyra worked alongside the community, helping Mara integrate and grow. The child's skills accelerated under their guidance, and she quickly became a symbol of hope. Villagers watched in awe as she repaired drones, improved energy systems, and even proposed designs that simplified life on the planet. One day, Mara ran to Jace, excitement shining in her eyes. "Look what I did!" she exclaimed, pointing to a small device she had designed. It harvested water from the air more efficiently than any system the community had built before. Jace knelt beside her, examining the invention carefully. This is brilliant, Mara. You've outdone yourself." He looked at Lyra, who nodded in quiet approval. "She's going to change everything here. Not with force, but with her mind. That's the kind of human strength they can't take away." As the sun set, casting warm orange light across the cliffs, Jace felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had reached the stronghold of humanity, a place where people worked together, relied on their intelligence, and thrived without fear. And most importantly, Mara had a chance to grow up surrounded by hope, creativity, and freedom. But even as they celebrated small victories, Jace remained vigilant. He knew that the syndicate was out there, observing, calculating, waiting for the right moment. Yet he also knew something vital. The people of this settlement were not helpless. They were humans in the purest sense. Resourceful, courageous, and unyielding. And if anyone thought they could take Mara or the community by force, they would find that the greatest weapon of all was the ingenuity and unity of humanity. That night, as the moons cast silver light across the valley, Jace looked at Mara, sleeping peacefully beside Lyra. He whispered softly, "You're safe here, kid. We'll make sure of it. And together, we'll show the universe what humans can do." The stronghold of humanity stood firm in the twilight, a shining example of what could be achieved when courage, intelligence, and cooperation guided people. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the planet, the distant hum of pursuing ships reminded them that the journey was not over, but they were ready. Because humanity, in all its stubborn brilliance, never surrendered. The twin moons of the hidden world hung low in the sky, casting silver light across the rugged cliffs and glowing valleys. Jace Mallory stood at the edge of the settlement, his wide-brimmed hat shadowing his face, eyes scanning the horizon. Mara and Lyra were nearby, helping villagers check energy systems and water collectors, ensuring the community remained prepared. Despite the calm, Jace felt the weight of anticipation pressing on him. They had been safe for weeks, but he knew the syndicate would not wait forever. Somewhere beyond the asteroid belt, beyond the nebula, the pursuers were planning their next move. The question was not if, but when. "Do you think they'll come tonight?" Mara asked quietly, her small hand brushing against his arm. Jace smiled, kneeling to meet her gaze. "If they do, we'll be ready. And we won't fight the way they expect. We'll use our minds and our creativity." Mara nodded, understanding in a way that only children with sharp intuition could. She had grown quickly since arriving in the stronghold, her abilities refined and supported by the people around her. She no longer feared the universe, she was learning to shape it with her mind. Lyra joined them, placing a reassuring hand on Jace's shoulder. "The community trusts you now," she said softly. "And more importantly, they trust themselves. Mara has inspired them. Even if the syndicate comes, we have something they can never understand. Human ingenuity and unity." Jace's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then let's make sure they learn that lesson." As night deepened, the villagers gathered. Jace, Lyra, and Mara addressed them. Not with orders, but with encouragement. Every person, every child, every elder was assigned a role: to watch the horizon, maintain the systems, and use their knowledge to anticipate challenges. No weapons were drawn. This would be a battle of intelligence, coordination, and creativity. Hours passed. The stars twinkled overhead, calm and indifferent. Then, in the distance, a faint glow appeared. Ships moving steadily toward the planet. The syndicate had arrived. Their ships were sleek and metallic, glowing softly under the starlight. But the settlement remained undisturbed. The villagers were ready, their systems optimized, their minds sharp. Jace turned to Lyra. Time to show them what humans can do. He activated a series of devices scattered across the cliffs: small drones, automated signaling mechanisms, and cleverly arranged reflective surfaces that used light and sound to create illusions. Mara assisted, her intuitive understanding allowing her to position everything with perfect precision. The syndicate ships drew closer, scanning for life signs. They expected a fearful settlement, a community unprepared for confrontation. Instead, they encountered moving lights, shifting shadows, and a series of false readings designed to confuse and mislead. Jace's voice came over the intercom. They think they're coming for a helpless child. But they don't understand humans. They don't understand ingenuity. The syndicate's lead ship adjusted its course repeatedly, trying to interpret the data. Each drone and reflective panel created a false trail, leading them away from the settlement. The villagers worked in harmony, adjusting devices, monitoring sensors, and relaying information with silent precision. Mara stood beside Jace, her eyes bright with excitement. "They're falling for it," she exclaimed. "Look at the lights. They think the settlement is moving." Jace nodded. "Exactly. Humans can think in ways machines cannot. Let's keep it that way." Lyra moved among the villagers, offering guidance and encouragement. Even the youngest children contributed, operating small drones and relaying signals. Their laughter and energy carried over the hills, filling the night with life. The syndicate, in contrast, was methodical, predictable, and slow to adapt. Hours passed as the chase continued. The syndicate attempted to bypass the illusions, but every route led to another cleverly constructed obstacle. The villagers anticipated patterns, using their knowledge of the terrain and the environment to guide the deception. Finally, Jace signaled the last phase. He directed the drones to create a final, dazzling display of lights, shadows, and patterns across the cliffs. The syndicate, overwhelmed by the complexity and adaptability of human thought, began to retreat. They could not comprehend the ingenuity that had outwitted them. Mara jumped up, cheering as the lead ship reversed course. "We did it!" "They're leaving," Jace laughed, clapping her on the shoulder. "Not just us, kid. Everyone here. You see what happens when humans work together? We don't need to fight with weapons. Our minds are the greatest defense of all." Lyra's eyes glistened with pride. "This is what I hoped for. They will remember this lesson. Humans are never helpless, and ingenuity is stronger than fear." The villagers celebrated quietly, not with noise or chaos, but with the steady satisfaction of accomplishment. Systems hummed efficiently, water collectors glimmered under the moonlight, and the children experimented with drones and devices inspired by Mara's designs. Jace stood on the cliffs, looking at the young girl now asleep in Lyra's arms. He felt a deep sense of peace. They had faced danger without violence, relying on intelligence, cooperation, and the human spirit. Mara had not only survived, she had thrived, bringing out the best in everyone around her. "The universe isn't safe," Jace said softly to Lyra. "But people like this, people like Mara, they can make it better." Lyra nodded. "And they will. One day, they'll teach others what it means to survive with creativity, courage, and unity." Mara stirred in her sleep, murmuring softly. Jace smiled down at her. "You've changed everything, kid. Not with force, but with your mind. That's a legacy humans will carry forward." The night passed, and the first light of dawn painted the cliffs in gold and pink. Jace, Lyra, and Mara walked among the villagers, observing how everyone contributed to the daily life of the stronghold. There was laughter, learning, and creativity everywhere. This was not just a safe place, it was a living example of what humanity could achieve when it worked together. Jace reflected on his own journey. He had been a solitary wanderer, drifting through the stars without attachment. Now, he was part of a community, part of a legacy that would outlast him. The solitary cowboy had found purpose, protection, and hope not through violence, but through guidance, ingenuity, and the courage to trust others. Lyra and Jace stood once more on the cliff's edge, watching the sunrise. "We've done more than protect Mara," Lyra said. "We've shown her a world where humans shine at their best." Jace nodded. "And she'll carry it forward. One day, she'll inspire others to be brave, creative, and unyielding. That's the real victory." Mara ran up to them, now fully awake, eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Can I help with the water collectors today?" she asked eagerly. "Of course," Jace said with a grin. "Lead the way, kiddo. Show everyone what humans can do." The day unfolded with purpose and joy. Mara demonstrated her ideas. Villagers improved their systems. And Jace watched, proud and amazed. The stronghold was more than a home, it was a testament to human determination, intelligence, and cooperation. Even as distant stars glimmered overhead, Jace knew that challenges would come. The universe was vast, and threats were inevitable. But the lesson remained clear. Humans were not powerless. They could think, adapt, and create solutions where others saw only danger. And in the hidden world, far from the greed and violence of the Outer Rim, humanity had proven its true strength, not through weapons, not through numbers, but through the ingenuity, resilience, and courage that lived in every heart willing to try. Jace, Lyra, and Mara looked at the horizon together. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. And for the first time in his life, the solitary cowboy felt certain of one thing. Humanity, even in its smallest forms, could shine brightest in the darkest corners of the universe. They had survived. They had thrived. And they would continue to do so because the human spirit, clever and unyielding, could never be defeated.